Okay, hello everyone. This is a lightning talk, not on Unreal today, but on another tool, Reaper, which is the DAW, the program I use to design sound and compose music. And so I called it Reaper, the DAW for programmers, but really it means to show how Reaper allows you to customize your workflow in many ways using different sorts of tools that are available to you, which I didn't find in any other program, especially in DAWs to make music. Before I was using Pro Tools and I would never go back to it, which it was cool. You can make music with any DAW, but for sound design and game audio and anything more specific, Reaper for me wins it all the time because it has a lot of possibilities like I'm going to show you. And because I think that Reaper, you don't have to learn it how it's intended by someone, by a developer. You will customize it so that it fits your whole workflow, because I think it's very satisfying as a designer to have a tool that you don't have to force yourself to learn all the shortcuts. You can design them your own. And so we can see that, for example, with our first point, the action list. The action list in Reaper is basically everything that you can do inside of it, like clicking a button, this one, or doing something like selecting, or with a sound, doing anything really. It's in that action list. So if you find yourself doing something a lot, then you can type the name here and you can assign a shortcut or assign a shortcut. It could even be on an external gear so that you can create anything that you want. And we also have like custom actions, which is your macros. You can chain actions together. There's many, many examples for that as well. And I have a bunch of customs as well. And the last thing that we have here are the scripts. You can also scripts in Reaper. It uses Lua. And I made some script before using GPT. GPT does know Reaper, for example. Comes in this little window. And scripts are great because action, they're just like a one-shot thing or a toggle, where scripts that you can access more under the hood of Reaper, like storing variables, what you have in your session can be used inside the script to accomplish some more complex stuff. So you can go very deep on what you want to design within the tool itself. And so I talked about scripts. Another great thing that I never seen in any tool. So this is a DAW, a audio system, but this is also an example for any program. I never saw that in any program. And I'm seeing this in Reaper mouse modifiers. If we go inside the settings and we scroll down, mouse modifier are what happens when you click on something and you have multiple sources, like an item. I had an item here. When I click on it, what happens when I double click? What happens when I left click? When you see a dot, it means that I customize one of them. What happens when you left drag? So it gives you access to that kind of customizations to what happens when you click on something. So I have some, for example, like if I alt click on an item, I turn it into stereo or mono, which is super useful. For example, in Pro Tools, I had to right click the track, collapse into mono, then delete the other one that I don't need. And I couldn't do anything else. In Reaper, I can just bind it to anything I want. And it's a toggle as well, so that's very convenient. So mouse modifier allows you to do that. Also, we have packages. Reaper is a lot community-based. There's a lot of things that the community is doing, and you can browse. If you install this Repack extension, you can browse what the community has been making. And those are more than scripts. They also have sometimes the GUI, sometimes it's just actions, sometimes they're a collection of scripts. So maybe someone wanted to do the things that you wanted to do, and they created a tool for it, and they uploaded it with their GitHub link. Those are GitHub repositories that are being accessed by various authors. You also have this SWS extension that when you install it, it gives you so much more custom actions. Just a lot of them. So those were all the ways to customize your workflow with various sources to get stuff for. And another great thing about Reaper are wildcards. And I think you find this in other programs like Nuendo, which is another DAW, but maybe it also exists in other programs. I think you'll see what I mean. If I open up the render export window, wildcards are going to be information about my project, such as the name of an item. So if I want to export this and I don't want to retype the item name again, I can just select the media items and select wildcards are starting with the $sign. If I put IT, it's going to get the item name directly. So there's, you see, it exposed that variable to us and we can access it, and our name, our file name is going to be named directly. But of course, this would be, let's say if I make something like a game audio file very easily, like for example, the export system that I created, for example, in Pro Tools before, I would make my design like this. I would chain, I would layer some SFX, etc., whatever. Let's say that this is an SFX. I would print the result of this SFX group. If I create a group, for example, whatever the name, what that was, and yeah, delete this. I would print the result of this. Printing means like recording it into another track, like this. I would arm that track. I would record the results of this track here, like this. Beautiful. I would double click on it and I would rename it. So I had to copy paste every time, and then I would export it using Control K. And I couldn't modify that workflow. I had to stick to it if I were to use Pro Tools. But on Reaper, I made, you can use, and first I was showing this to a audio friend, and he told me, what the hell are you doing? Do you know that in Reaper you have regions? So for example, I created this. Let's say that this is an SFX. Let's say this is chicken bounce. And I created a script that allows me to create a export region for each SFX that I'm doing. It's going to give the appropriate name with the appropriate number. And on my export window, I can make sure, let's say the project is called LTR, like little tracker, and then it's going to find all those names and it's going to export my files with the appropriate names. I don't have to rename things. It's always
that is amazing. That is so good.
Time.
Yeah.
And you can get as complex as you want. Let's say also like this is an SFX session. So I put that as an SFX in like the title of the session, but I could put it anywhere I want. Oops, that didn't save. So if I need to say that those are SFX, I could use that title, and now I have the name, etc. You can add as many as you want, so you can customize your file name. And yeah, this is of course, a deal breaker. If I don't have that in another program, DAW, I wouldn't pursue with that one, because this one gives me what I need, I think. And the last thing that I noticed was themes and more. This is a custom theme. I can customize the buttons here, what they do. Here, this is a RioWise. This is a custom things that they did, someone did. So I can communicate with Wise directly, sends directly the exports. And yeah, other stuff. This is a loop maker. He creates a loop out of file directly. It can combine multiple. It's pretty good. Oops. Let's do with this one. Yeah, gets it automatically. And those are scripts that they did with Lua. And this is an example of someone who made a script and they had a GUI, and now I have this accessible to me. And this guy, NVK, he's a real nuts. He made really awesome stuff. And yeah, I think that will be a good overview on this talk on why I use Reaper, why I think it's so good for quick workflows and all of that inside the audio world. And if you guys ever had the need to do something audio related, Reaper could be maybe a quick and easy option for you. if to create a workflow very easily, so that if you have an action that you do a lot, you could create it there. But if you do have something to do in audio, and yeah, how much was that time in time? Did I go too fast? I think that's okay.
Yeah, it's good. Can you show the how the routing works? So like how signal routing works?
So the routing, it's this window, and you can very easily as well. This is a group, for example. Well, I can start over. So let's say that this is, I want to send this channel into here. I just drag and drop it.
Okay.
And you send the amount.
Okay.
You can also you can also modify the output, of course, of any channel. Here it means I disabled the master send, so we're not going to hear that, but we're going to hear it through this channel though, for example. And yeah, it works like that. I also have, for example, if I need a quick reverb, I have a Control T. It opens up that free one from Valhalla, which is pretty cool. If I want to send to it, I just do this. It's very easy with that. I also have another command that opens up if I need more reverbs. Sometimes I need to record a lot of vocals. So I have a command that create a vocal track that's already ready.
Nice.
There we go. And a lot more stuff. Like for example, this plugin that I have on F that I found, you can do some variation on different parameters of a file. And it's going to do that. And it's pretty cool when you have a file that you already have, you can want to create some variations on it. If you have something maybe more complex, well, this is just an example. It's going to create some versions for you, even Chernobyl. Oh, this is weird. This is a really bad examples, but a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What about, so is it just for audio, or does it allow you to like sequence MIDI?
In what scenario? The MIDI?
Like if you wanted to, for example, if you're going to record your piano, do you record the audio, or do you record it as MIDI and run it through like a virtual instrument?
I have a MIDI controller here, so I record using that, and I load virtual instruments like this one, for example, this piano here, and then I can play it with my keyboard. But if I want to record a specific instrument, I do have my interface. Then I plug something in it, and then I can access it like the vocal track.
Right, but when you record, you're recording the MIDI notes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
When most of the times I do that with the virtual instruments.
So yeah, it's got some and how's it look? Can you get in there and edit that? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Perfect.
You can customize also the look of the MIDI editor. You can add some buttons. I had some tools, like for example, when you see the Corsa on the top left, this is also a script that I got, which is like very nice to have.
Hey, nice. Yeah.
So
yeah, neat.
And also customize this. All this reminds me of the MMORPG experience when you in World of Warcraft you have a character and you keybind all the spells because you want to go as fast as you can. So I did that as much as I can. If I need to move something up an octave or down, I have a shortcut for that. If I need to duplicate, etc., I make sure to have something that I need to do a lot. I made sure to create an action, and so that's very beneficial.
Cool.
And yeah.
Does it support MPE?
MPEs, that's an audio format, right?
No, it's the it's like multi-touch expression, like multi-poly or something.
I think yes.
Okay.
It's it should be on your MIDI devices. If I can find that again. No, it was in.
Cool. Well, I believe you. I mean, if it's not in there, there's probably something that will allow you to plug something in.
And the because I haven't used this in a while, but I do have the something there. forgot what it's called, but yeah, you can connect, route any interface that you have, or any external tool that does support that, and map. Yeah, no, it's very. I think you can do everything you want, and even use it in a bat file. If you have an action that you want to run, a lot of times you can even probably create the functionality in Reaper, then call a script. Yeah, you can go pretty fast with it.
It seems a bit like Blender, but for audio.
Yeah, I don't know how Blender works, but if it does allow you to do all of that, then yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's sort of infinitely
Blender,
extensible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And yeah, I think that's all.
This is impressive. Every time I see something on Reaper, this is one of those cases where I would love to go down such a deep rabbit hole with a program like this, and I will never find the time to. So I'm happy you are doing that, and I get to enjoy it vicariously through you.
Cool, yeah.
Because I'll see you do it, and then when we have our sessions together, and then I'll open up Reaper, and yeah, it just won't be the same, and I'll say, screw it. I go back to my IDE.
Yeah, I get it. I did spend a lot of time making those, for sure. Spend a lot of time making sure that finding the good workflow. Yeah.
How long have you been using Reaper?
Been using it since 2020, August 2020. Yes, and ever since then, yeah, I've been tinkering around it to really make it my own.
Yeah, to your point, I mean that's one of the reasons why Reaper's so like interesting to me is, with, for example, an IDE, part of what makes that experience so enjoyable is making your own, and you have all of your key maps and your workflows. And for example, I'm able to do significantly more work on my keyboard without necessarily using my mouse, which is also quite empowering. And I think when I jump into Reaper I know it's extensible in the same manner, but I don't have all that set up, right? The workflows. And so I feel like a bumbling idiot, like clicking things with a mouse and doing one thing at a time.
Of course, there's some setup. But
so again, it just takes time, but it's very impressive to see it. And to what you're saying, it's just so much power in custom workflows and these sorts of macros. And again, the way that you had the chord setup when you had the MIDI interface in the top left, and some of the GUI tools, it's great.
Yeah, all of that is added, and yeah, for sure, it really feels good to be able to really build the thing that you want. That you're never limited by the program that you're using to design, which just feel good. That's why I'm happy in life.
Great. Now, in comparison to, since you've been doing more in Unreal now, and with Metasound and some of the systems you've been working on there, what part of your workflow, if any, has changed or you think will change between the way that you are doing things here, and is anything sort of being offloaded to Unreal, or it is still just basically two separate?
To Unreal, not yet. With the Metasounds, there hasn't been really a connection there, but all of the game audio workflow is heavily used for sure. I could create something custom for Metasounds if.
Yeah, well, I was wondering because I think I'm a bit naive on knowledge of this, but I did see that Metasounds had introduced some MIDI related functionality, and I was wondering, is there any workflow? Yeah, if there's any workflow where you are doing, MIDI here, but you're plugging it into Unreal somehow, because I have to assume the MIDI interface is going to be more granular and you're going to have more fine control here, but then maybe you use Reaper as a means of creating the MIDI tracks, feeding that into Unreal, and the same way that you would, utilize like Houdini with a bridge to Unreal, and you'd modify the environment in Houdini and see the updates in Unreal. Do you foresee any sort of workflow like that between Reaper and Unreal?
That could be interesting. So if you would feed new instrument ideas, for example, you change a part and then it reflects in the game directly, like if you change.
Yeah. I was wondering if there is a workflow there, because I imagine the way that you might do things at the moment between Reaper and Unreal is you'll do things in Reaper, get it where you want, you'll then do an export, then pull it over, import it into Unreal, play around there, then come back to Reaper. It seems
you're right.
that maybe, and again, I have no knowledge of this, but I'm just thinking about the way that we were previously, prior to PCG, we would do a lot of the procedural content using Houdini, and we'd have a Houdini bridge that would, handle updating things in near real time inside of Unreal, but you could work inside Houdini as the tool of choice and see those updates reflected in Unreal. It feels like there might be something similar here.
That's
perhaps.
very interesting, and I'm sure it's possible because as I showed, they made this like tool to communicate with Wise, but this only exports inside of Wise. You cannot send modification live. This is just for file purposes, but I'm sure that you could maybe communicate to Unreal if someone made the tool, or us.
Yeah, I mean, we could build that. I was doing a thought exercise to see if there was any real value that would come as a result of that.
Yeah, good
again,
thought.
I don't know what the workflow is. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if all the customizations you do stay in the DAW or are like on a per project or per file.
Great question. It is, in the DAW, all of the things that you do, you can export that, and I haven't done it in a while. Export configuration. So if I change PC or I work somewhere else, I can import everything by configuration. So it means that if there's two sound designers using Reaper, they're going to have so very different programs from one another. And because that all of that workflow customization, and it's saved inside the program, and you can also export it, which is it's a good thing too.
Cool, because for example, like you said earlier, I think Christian said, it's like looks like Blender for audio. And one thing I don't fully like about Blender is that when someone hands you a file, it has all their panels, some plugins are active or inactive because of their file, and it messes up your shit.
I see.
When you're opening files from marketplaces or things like that.
That would be the same if you pass a Reaper session with plugins that you don't have yet.
Which makes sense to a degree, right? It's sort of like with Unreal. With Unreal, it sort of says, hey, you're opening this project, which has these requirements, these dependencies, enable them. But of course, in this case, just passing a model file and an audio file, I guess it just sort of breaks. Does it tell you which things are missing, or you just sort of find out as you're going through it?
It depends on the stuff. Like for example, the panel arrangements in Blender, you see it right away, and you have to rearrange that again if you want to use it with your workflow. But the add-ons, you find it when you want to use it.
Cool.
And for example, for drawing, I'm using Eclipse Studio a lot besides Photoshop because of all that customization. They do a talk about that.
Yeah, you should. That would be a good one.
Do that.
I also won't draw, but I'll be excited to see you and your setup. All right.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Samy. This was good.
Yeah,
Hey,
thanks
thank
a
you
lot.
guys.
Appreciate it.
So good. Good job.